Hey everyone, it's Colleen, the Preparedness Pro. Let's get Instagram online here and then we can get started. I always forget poor Instagram. I'm terrible. Poor Instagram. Listen, we've got a great show for you. Today's guest is basically what happens when Wonder Woman trades her lasso for a hyperbaric oxygen chamber and a pantry full of freeze-dried lasagna. Stephanie Parrish has been on stage since she was 3. She was crowned Miss Pocatello in the glory days of big hair and bigger dreams.
And I had both.
And she has, her and her husband together have 10 kids. She's managing that without losing her mind or her sense of humor. And she now runs a global wellness movement that's all about hope, healing, and health without the hype. She's a certified pro in therapies I can barely pronounce and the host of an international vitality health show. And she's living proof that you can be a prepper without the panic. And I love those kind of people. So grab the drink of your choice, maybe your tinctures, and settle in because we are about to dance through disaster with joy and love and just enough laughter to count as therapy. Stephanie, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun. I'm usually on the other end, so this is great to.
Yeah, now you get a little taste of your poison, huh?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you've been on stage since you were 3, crowned royalty in the 80s, and now you've got more grandkids than a Costco-sized box of juice pouches. Is there anything that you haven't done yet besides maybe sitting still for longer than 5 minutes? Is there still anything that you desire to do?
Well, the sitting still thing, I don't know that will ever happen because that's just not who I am. However, I married my husband 3 years ago because both of us lost our spouses in 2021. I never thought I would go through a death of a spouse, but we lost our spouses in 2021. We met each other on December 20th of 2021, and we're married on January 3rd of 2022. So if we could have, we would have gotten married sooner, but I'm like, we've got 2 weeks. We probably should get married in 2022 because we both lost our spouses in 21. Anyway, it was kind of crazy, but it's been really fun being married to him because he's seeing everything through my eyes now. He did restaurant management for 35 years, and then he worked for the post office, and now he's acting and performing and singing. He's never done that before. I'm like, are you sure you're ready to come into my world?
Yeah, you dragged him into it, didn't you?
I did, but he came willingly. So we've had a lot of fun. He's learned a lot about the hyperbaric and a lot about the lights. And I feel very confident that he can take care of the clients as well as I can. And he's getting trained and very knowledgeable. And it's been fun that he's grasped all these things that I'm very involved in and loves it. So
now, were you both into preparedness when you met, or did one person have more of a grasp on it than the other?
That's funny that you would ask that because when we very first started talking, which was on the 16th of December, one of the first things he asked me is he said, "Are you a prepper?" And I said, "You know that word?" Because that was at the time preppers weren't very well accepted. There's a lot of doomsdayers out there. And I said to him, first thing he asked me, and I said to him, I am not a doomsdayer. Prepper.
There you go.
And he's like, oh, good, I'm so glad, because so am I. So, not anywhere to the extent that I was, but, he was. He knew what that meant and how important that was. And it's like, I've been brought up as a prepper my whole entire life, make sure you have this, make sure you have that. And there's been twice in to my first marriage of 30 years that we lived off of our food storage because of financial situations and health situations. And oh my goodness, I fed all 6 of my children off of our food storage. And I was so grateful for that. But fast forward, I realized there is so much more than just preparing for my family. And so I have been feverishly preparing for all scenarios, everything. And that started with, I guess I can tell you how deep I got that. That started when I moved to Southeast Idaho. Well, I was prepping quite a bit when I was down in St. George, Utah. But when I moved to Southeast Idaho and you hear the little spirit tell you, you need to make some prepper bags for people. And I was like, excuse me, what? And they said, and I heard the voice tell me, you need to make hygiene kits, 25 of them. And I said, I need to make hygiene kits, 25. I mean, I had been, doing, not really doing a garden, but I've been trying to buy little extras each time I go to the store and just the basic stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm having this conversation with Spirit. And I said, what do I put in these hygiene bags? And literally the Spirit said to me, if you had been walking for 2 weeks, but nothing but the clothes on your back, what would you want? I'm like, a shower. For one, I'd want to brush my teeth. I'd want to wash my face. So I got to work putting these 25 bags together with things that I would want if I was walking for 2 weeks with nothing but the clothes on my back. I would want to have some water. I'd want to be able to brush my teeth. I'd want to be able to wash my face and have some deodorant and some towels, a hand towel to wash off with, just this basic stuff. So I got the 25 together. It took me about a week or two, and I thought, well, okay, I did this, yay. And I was told to put all the liquid stuff in a Ziploc bag, and told I mean by the Spirit. The Spirit was talking to me on a daily basis. So I put all the liquid stuff in a Ziploc bag, and then I put it all together in a big gallon bag. I thought, you know what? Somebody could use these bags. These would be great bags to continue using as storage or using something to make baggy omelets or something. They would. So I made sure that everything that's in there, and I got a bunch of little toothbrushes that are the little tiny ones with the travel. It was just for a couple of days worth of stuff, but it's like, how awesome would that be if somebody could just hand you this bag and it's everything you needed? And so when I first started, I had about 12 things in the bag, just little things. And I had been managing hotels for many years. So I had all the little tiny shampoos and conditioners and soaps and all that stuff. And I've just had them in boxes from all my years working at the hotels. Well, let's just figure out how many I have of those and put some of those in each bag. So that's what I did. I think it's probably 1 or 2 times of use. But how awesome would that be if you didn't have anything?
Yeah.
So after I got done with the 25 bags, the Spirit literally said, now you need to do 50. I'm like, I just finished 25. Okay, I'll do 25 more. So I was telling my husband, who he and I had only been married for about, this is not this husband here, but my husband, Ken. He and I had been married for about a year. And I said, I've got to make 25 more bags. I mean, that gets expensive, But I was looking for really good deals. The dollar store became my favorite place. And then after I got the 50 done, literally the Spirit said, this is what you need to add. I'm like, okay. Now keep in mind, we're right at the height of COVID. This was in 2020 when we moved to Southern Utah. And so to find stuff, things were just disappearing. You couldn't find things. And it was just a crazy situation, but I did what I could, and I got the bags made that I could. And he and I sat there, and we put them all together, and we put them in this big tub. And then we knew we had to move. So we were moving because we were staying in an Airbnb in Paris, Idaho. And we knew we had to be out by March because they had it rented for the summer. So I guess it was May. They had it rented in May. And so we were frantically trying to find some place to go. So this is how the Spirit works and the preparation works. And we moved here because the Spirit told us we needed to be here because there was a big group of our prepper friends that all moved here, knowing that we needed to help prepare this area. And that's very, very important to know, that because there's crazy stuff happening. But I knew I needed to be here to help prepare this area. That's what the Spirit told me. And there's a whole bunch more story behind that. But we were sitting there looking for a place to go, and we couldn't find it. And I thought, we won't have a problem buying a house. I just refinanced my house. I sold it. We had plenty of money to buy his house. And for some reason, because we moved over from Utah to Idaho, they would not let me do a loan on a house. And it was just because my business wasn't in Idaho. It was been in Utah for all those years. It was crazy. But I know that the Spirit had a lot to do with that. So looking for another home, we finally found one. I couldn't get a loan. I'm like, this is crazy. I can't get a loan. We're going to have to rent one. So we finally found a place that we really liked, and we were supposed to move in on Friday. and because we had to be out of the Airbnb by the next week because they had people coming in for the summer. And we went over. So I called them on Thursday. She called the gal that we're buying the house from, called me on Thursday, and they were willing to carry a contract. I said, I just need a year because I have to have one more year of my business being open here. So they were willing to do that for us. And we were sitting there, and she called us on Thursday. We were moving on Friday. And she said, we've had a broken pipe and the whole house is flooded. And I'm like, oh crap, that is not good. Because they had moved out. So it had flooded for 24 hours before they even found it.
Oh dear.
So the entire house was flooded. It was down into the piping, and the walls were all crumbling, and it was a mess. I felt so bad. So they told us that we could go pick out all the new coloring, all the new carpets, all the new floors. The floors were just rippled. It was just horrible. And so I called the people that we were staying at, and she's like, that is so weird because the other people just canceled.
Oh.
She goes, you're welcome to stay a couple more weeks. So in the process, we got in there. Their insurance wouldn't cover anything. They wouldn't. So we were just out. I said, well, we can't take that house. And so the Spirit told me one night that I needed to call my friend who does loans. And she says, well, this is what you need to do. And so that night I had a dream of 3 scenarios. This is why the prepper world is so important for me, because I knew I was supposed to be there. But there was 3 scenarios of what could happen so that I could get this loan. And the next day, they all happened exactly the way that they were told to me. And within 2 days, I had a loan. And I'm like, okay, now I need a house because we couldn't find a house. And on Friday night, another house went up for sale. And my husband said, I think we should go look at that house. And I said, yeah, we need to go look at that house. So we called the realtor. He got us in the next morning before anybody else had seen it. It had just literally come on the market at 9:30 that night. And we called and said, can we get in tomorrow morning and see it? And they said, yeah, we've got like 40 people coming starting Monday and Tuesday. I said, well, let's just come see it. So we went over and we walked through this house. We had seen so many, and they were just not anything we would live in. Anyway, we walk into the house, and my husband looks at me and goes, I think this is our house. And I walked into the kitchen, and I'm like, this is our house. It was just that fast. And, when you're going through a house, the owners aren't supposed to be there. Well, the owners were there, and they come walking up the stairs and from the basement. And she gave me this big hug and started crying. She goes, oh, my gosh, this is your house. I said, I know it is. It's my house. We had just gotten the loan approved the day before. They were out in 2 weeks. They'd already had a place to go, and we were able to move in. And it was just such a cool blessing. But then that was in May. And then my husband got sick with COVID and died in August. And it's like, what just happened to my world? What just happened to my world? But one of the weird things was one of the ladies that lived by us came over to just check on me. And I said, okay, so I got to back up because this is another really cool thing. I couldn't find washcloths or hand towels to go in my hygiene bags. I could not find them anywhere. And a friend of mine called me, and she's like, I just felt like I need to call you. A friend of mine from Pocatello or from Idaho Falls. And she goes, I haven't talked to her for like 3 years. But she says, I need to, because I talked to her. I should take that back. I talked to her because her daughter had just died of cancer and was buried here in Montpelier. And I said, she's the first one in this new section. I said, when I buried Ken, I wanted him right by Shayla. Because she always babysit my kids when they were young, and I wanted him to be by her. So I was able to talk to her just before when Shayla had passed. And she's a cute little mom with 5 little kids, and she passed of cancer, and it was just devastating. Anyway, I was sitting at the graveside, and she called me, and she's like, what can I do for you? And I was just bawling. I said, I can't find washcloths and hand towels. I need 11 more to finish up these 50 bags. And she's like, Stephanie, let me see what I can do. And then she called me back about 2 hours later, and she goes, I've sent them to you. They're on their way. I just started bawling. I'm sitting at the graveside already bawling. And I said, oh, you have no idea. Thank you so much. I did not realize she was so sick, and she died 2 days later.
Wow. And
the day of her funeral was when the washcloths and the hand towels were delivered to my house. So it was like this blessing from her. And then a neighbor of mine came over and said, "What can I help you with?" I said, "Help me put these bags together." So we put these bags together, and within 3 days, I got a call from the senior center in Montpelier. And she said, "Well, I was told that you might have some hygiene kits. We're desperate. Can we get 10 hygiene kits?" I'm like, "I have got the hygiene kits. They're ready. I will bring them over to you right now." So this is just kind of how my world works all the time. I have to remember to listen because the Lord's always telling me, because I would go in and fix these. Oh, and then he told me, "You need 100 hygiene kits." I'm like, my husband just died. No idea where any money's coming from, but okay, I will go. So when I'd go to the dollar store, he would say, he would tell, I hear these voice, "You need to get 10 bottles and 10 child baby wipes and 10, and all these different things." So I did children's ones and adult ones.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just how it worked, and I know that they're supposed to be prepared for what's coming. I've already used some of them.
You are a total prepper, but not the camo wearing, bunker digging type who thinks every shadow is the apocalypse. You believe in being ready with joy, not fear. So,
Right.
What does that look like in your everyday life?
It's really funny because I never, when my kids were growing up, it was 100% my kids and my very sick husband at the time. That was my life. And to prep food or to even do any of the things I'm doing, it's like that wasn't part of my world. But since I've moved up here to Montpelier, prepping has been a very big part of my life. I have a freeze dryer now. I've got 2 dehydrators. I've grown a garden. I do all those things, and every single day I try to do something. I try to be very aware of what the Lord tells me to do, because whatever it is, it seems like somebody always needs that. And it's like, okay, so we've been doing a lot of, and every time we make a meal, now there's just the 2 of us, my new husband and I, there's just the 2 of us. And every time we make a meal, we make a double meal and we freeze dry part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, or we can it or something. So that's always, I've been, and now I'm feeling like I can't, there's no room to move in my house. It's like we were told to make sure that we line the walls with food. And John's like, "Did you have to do that literally?" Because we've got boxes and cans, everything, because I don't feel, we don't have any children at home anymore. They're all on their own. They're all gone. But there will be a time, I think, that they will all be back, and they will, and my children, and not only that, but our neighbors and the people in our community. There's not a lot of preppers that are genuine preppers. They think if they've got a couple extra cans of food, they're okay. It's like,
Yeah.
well, what are you going to do when the power goes out? What are you going to do if the grid goes down? Do you have a plan? And I have been working on trying to get that into our community. What is the plan of the community? Because there's no meetings or anything. There's nothing. And there's not even emergency preparations going on here. And I'm like, guys, we're kind of sitting ducks here.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you explain preparedness to your grandkids without turning into the scary bedtime story?
I don't turn it into a scary bedtime story, but I said, you know what? If we need to go get a can of food downstairs, we better have a can of food downstairs to go get. And I do tell them there was times when your mom and dad didn't have any food because grandma and grandpa didn't have any food at that time, but we always had food down in our storage. And so we could go down and make something out of that, So I think it's more hands-on. It's more teaching
Mm-hmm.
by example than talking, It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is awesome. Let's see if we can," like dandelions. We've been so into dandelion tinctures and dandelion teas and dandelion salves. And it's funny because I'm like, "Don't anybody get your yard sprayed. Let us come get your dandelions." Because they're so healthy. I had no idea. I was the sprayer. Like, yeah, I can make food, but you know what? I'm going to get my thing sprayed because I don't want these weeds. Totally different now. And I've had the opportunity, and since my husband and I've been married, we've gone to a lot of different prepper camps and different things to learn what's medicinal. Like Dr. Jones. I love Dr. Jones. He's in outside Twin Falls. He's got a podcast, and we've talked. I've had him on my podcast, and he's like, Stephanie, you need to have everything in your yard medicinal. You need to see what's medicinal in your yard, and you need to make sure everything you have in there is something that can be used.
Yeah.
So we've just completely like redone our yard and put flowers in there that are medicinal, and put the right trees that are in there, and just tried to make it something that if we needed to, we could go out and we could peel the bark off that tree and we could use it to make a tincture.
Wonderful.
You know, so that's kind of where we're at right now. It's not, we really are running out of room, but the Lord will provide. You know, we just keep stacking to the ceilings.
Well, let me ask you this. What would you say is one simple thing someone listening today can do to feel a little bit more prepared and a little less freaked out?
Yeah, you know what? Just one thing at a time. If you can buy an extra box of Band-Aids, buy an extra box of Band-Aids. You know, they've got at the dollar store, they've got the whole first aid kits that are only a couple, now nothing's $1 at the dollar store anymore, but less than $10. You know, I mean, just super simple things like that. My husband was asking me the other day, he goes, don't we have any more Band-Aids? Because we'd gone through a whole box of Band-Aids. I said, yeah, we have like a whole bunch left in all of our first aid kits. And we have got, you can go on Temu, or you can go on any of these places that you can buy stuff. Go to and a lot of people don't have a lot of extra cash right now. So do a little bit at a time, you know, and whatever you can make, you can go online and you can find anything, your laundry soap, your dish soap, your antibiotics, everything that you possibly need, you can usually make out of stuff you have in your home. So go online, look it up, just Google something and see what they say, because usually you can make that. That's what I've been trying to be really focused on lately, is making my own laundry soap and my own dish soap and my own toothpaste. And I just made this awesome toothpaste out of bentonite clay, and which I had in my house, you know, bentonite clay and baking soda and some essential oils. And it's wonderful. It's like, and I don't have to worry what's in it, because I know what's in it, because I put it in it. You know? So
Let me ask you this. You ran a dance studio for 30 years. So
yes.
Tell me the truth. Did those skills help you pirouette through life's curveballs? I mean, I'm guessing after teaching toddlers how to shuffle ball change, nothing really rattles you.
You know, I was the only one for years and years and years that taught 2-year-olds. And I would teach 2-year-olds all the way up to adults. And we had more stinking fun at our studio for all those years. We ran a dance competition for 10 years, and we started out with, I think, 300 dancers. And by the time I retired, we had, well, almost 1,200 dancers, you know, come to those competitions. And yes, that obviously, I started dancing when I was 3, and I started teaching when I was 14. And I taught till I retired, which was from that. I've never retired yet, but from that, because we moved to Utah. And I loved every bit of it. And there was nothing funner than years down the road when you're starting to teach kids that you taught when they were little kids. You're starting to teach their kids. I was like, this is so weird, deja vu. You know, but it's so fun because I had students that just could not know their left foot from the right foot, no matter what they did, no matter what. And it's like the whole class is going one way, they're going another way, you know, or they stand out there and they just smile at their mom and wave, you know, the whole time. But then you see them just blossom. There's just something about dance and being in that modality and learning. And every year I would go to different camps with my students, and I would take the teachers' classes and they would take the student classes. And every year I'd learn something new. And I thoroughly loved it. You know, that was something I was always so grateful for, that my parents put me in dance at 3. They put us, all of my cousins were all in dance. It was all of us together because we all lived on the same street, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. We all lived on the same street, but I was the only one that pursued that as a career. And I took that as a career, and it was amazing. I always did something else, but I always taught 4 or 5 classes every single week. And
well, you kind of had a second act. I mean, you're a walking encyclopedia of alternative health, hyperbaric oxygen, PBMT, microcirculation. I mean, most of us are lucky if we can even pronounce all that. How
That
does
is what.
health and wellness tie into the bigger picture of being self-reliant?
Oh, it's huge. In fact, with my hyperbaric chambers, if people don't know what that means, basically what it's doing is you're going to this big tent. It's like a 2-person tent, and you get infused with oxygen. So back in Bible time, the earth was about 45 to 50% oxygen. People just lived until they were 400, 500, 900 years old, and their bodies didn't get sick. Now we're between 19 and 21% oxygen. That's just breathing in the air.
Mm.
So when you go into the hyperbaric chamber, you get that infusion of that oxygen that you should have had years ago. You get that infusion. Everybody needs more oxygen in their bodies. We do not get enough in the air. And I use a combination of light therapy, because the light therapy opens the blood vessels, and then the body I can saturate with the oxygen so that everything that's in there doesn't have a choice. It has to repair because it's getting the right light and the right oxygen. And then the PBMT, all the different things that we do, all the different modalities. I've just been so blessed to be able to train and learn and grow and teach and be educated with all these different modalities and what works and what doesn't. And when I closed my company down in St. George and I moved to Idaho, God told me, and this is why and I just harp on this, because God told me, your equipment will be what keeps people alive during the tribulations. And it's like, well, that makes sense because there's no pharmaceutical attached to it. I've even got generators that can run them. So it's like, yeah, you get oxygen and light, because even our sunlight back in Cleopatra's day, when she'd go out and sit in the sunlight, there was nutrition that came from the sun. It doesn't do that anymore. It's very, very hard to get what we need from the sun because of all the layers of crap that it has to go through. But the light therapy that I use in my clinic and in my personal life is the most natural sunlight that you can get without the damaging rays. And we just have to have that. That's where there's so much depression going on, there's so much anxiety going on, and so many things like that. We don't have the light. And if we can get light and oxygen and our bodies working correctly with all those things that we need to have, and nutrition, those are all the things. So when we're putting our preps together, we need to be thinking about the nutrition. Are we putting something in our preps that's going to kill us anyway? Don't do that. You got to be prepared with the right nutrition. And so with that and all the modalities that I have, it all works together. It's really an amazing experience.
So I'm curious, what's one healing item that you'd never want to run out of in a crisis?
My chambers, my hyperbaric chambers, because I've been doing this for almost 14 years, and I literally have seen miracles just from going into the hyperbaric chamber and with light therapy. If you can get your body functioning the way God wanted it to function, it can repair itself. And you've got to put the right food in with it, but the oxygen is vital. It is absolutely vital to anybody to survive.
Well, Stephanie, you're a walking lesson in joyful readiness. So I'm going to ask you, because we see things very similarly. What's one truth that you've learned about thriving, not just surviving, no matter what life throws at you?
You know, I'm so glad that you asked that, because I think the biggest thing is no fear. Have faith, not fear. And you do not have to go out and be a huge prepper. You don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars. Most people don't have it. So ask Heavenly Father what you need to do. What's the one thing you need to have? If you're at the grocery store and you've got this many dollars, what do you need to add to that? Or what can you replace with that? And that's healthy and good. You have to be so careful with everything you're buying at the grocery store now, because there's a lot of stuff that's not good, that's harming our bodies more than helping our bodies. This is where you have to live in faith, not fear. And that's the whole thing, because God knows our heart, and He will help us if we will ask. And I think that's the biggest thing, is you've got to have that faith and not fear.
Yeah, and is it just me, or do you see that the more faith you have, the more opportunities to exercise that faith he gives us?
Oh, all the time.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's like, okay, can you just like give me this and not make me live through this? But that's not how it works, because I feel like I've been through a lot. I've written 2 books. I've got a third one coming out on April 29th, and it's called The Book on Love. And everything that I've been through, which has been a lot, you can go to my website, you can look at any of my other books, but you find out that you really have got the opportunity to learn. And if you can learn from all of the things that are happening, all the tragedies, all the crazies, everything that's going on in our lives, if you can take that as a lesson instead of as a punishment, or thinking, why do I have to go through this? Well, okay, how else would I have learned that? I think that's huge. That is absolutely huge, to be able to know that everything that happens in our lives, we get to learn a lesson from.
Okay, so I'm going to take your little story of the hygiene kits and I'm going to ask you a question, and maybe it'll prompt you to do something with your hygiene kits. If you could leave a love note in a first aid kit, what would it say?
Oh, wow. I think it would be just simple, and it would say something like, I love you. Take care of yourself. I think that's what God would tell us to do. And he
Yeah.
does. And that's why they're prepared. And it's funny, because there's been times I've had dreams after dreams. I never used to be a dreamer, but I've had dreams of exactly what I'm supposed to be doing with these hygiene kits. And that is why I've given some of them away. I've replaced them. I've done different things with them, but I know exactly what they're there for. And that is huge for me, because it's like, yep, they're prepared. They're ready to go. I know what I'm doing with them. Just like my food, I know that it's not for us. My husband's like, we've got food enough for. I said, it's not going to feed us. It will feed us, but it's going to feed a whole lot more people
Mm-hmm.
too. And why not? so I mean, and like I said, I don't want anybody to be frustrated, discouraged if they don't have the money to do things, or time, or whatever. One thing, just do one thing a day. And it can be simply like the other day, I just did 250 matches that I waterproofed. I got the matches at the dollar store, put them in wax, and they are now waterproof matches.
Well, you could even just do one thing a week and be better off.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
don't get discouraged. Just do something.
Yeah.
Just do
Yeah.
something. That's the main part.
Well, I want to make sure everyone knows about your books and how to get in touch with you. So let's tell them a little bit about your books.
My books are on Amazon. And the first one is If Only for a Short Time. And that was the book of my third husband that I was married to for only 2.5 years before he was taken from COVID, which was devastating. Talk about trying to figure out what happened to your life.
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, I mean, when you go through a divorce, it's like, okay, that was bad after 30 years. But then somebody that you're so happy with, and all of a sudden they're gone. They
Yeah.
got sick on one day and we're gone the next day. It's like, what happened? So that's what that book is. It's a tribute to him. And then I was asked to be on the Book of Abundance, which was probably about 4 months later after he'd passed away, with Jan Fraser. And there was 28 of us that were in this composite book. And it was awesome. And then she's just asked me to write another chapter on the Book of Love. And I just lost my mother 2 years ago in January. And I just felt like that was what I needed to write to her, because I was really having a difficult time, not a difficult time with losing her. She was 89, but a difficult time with the fact that I really didn't like her a lot of times, and I realized there's a lot of people that go through that. I love my mother, but I didn't really like her very well. And my sisters kept saying, but you were her favorite. And I'm like, I was not her favorite. I was the one she fought with all the time, maybe because we were both so headstrong. I don't know. But I did get a lot of opportunity to just dig into her past and understand more about her, and why she did the things that she did, and why our relationship was the way it was. And when I called and asked my sisters, I said, I need you guys all to just give me your favorite quote from Mom. Nobody could come up with a good one, a nice one. They were all mean. And so, like, yeah, maybe I won't put those in there. So it wasn't just me, but I do feel very strongly that I got the opportunity to know my mother better and understand because of this opportunity to write the book of love. So that will be dropping on Amazon on the 29th. And we're actually working on getting it onto not only an Amazon bestseller, which my first 2 books were, but it's going to be a New York Times bestseller. So we've got lots of people out there pushing for that and helping us with that. And we're excited to get that up and going and moving and get it published.
Yep. You never have a scarcity of dreams, Stephanie. That's wonderful.
I've always wanted to be an author. My mother's an author. My sisters are all authors. It's like,
It's a requirement in your DNA, huh?
That's right. I'm the only one that didn't graduate from college, though. So, and I don't think I'm going to do that now.
So tell people about your show, where they can find it.
Yeah, my Vitality Health show. It's called the Vitality Health Show. I've been doing this now I don't even know how many years, many, many, many years. I've got almost 300 shows out there, and it's all about everything hope and healing. And that's hope and healing, whether it's financial, emotional, spiritual, physical, whatever it is. I have had the privilege of interviewing incredible people from all across the world, doctors, nurses, people that have had near-death experiences, people that, you name it, people that have been raised in satanic rituals, people that have been in car accidents that live to tell about it. I mean, you name it. And I've had financial people, and I've had so many amazing, amazing people. So you can go on Spotify. On Spotify, you can pull it up, Vitality Health Show, and it's got, I don't know how many are on there, but I'm also on Vibrant You on Vibrant You Utah on YouTube, and Vitality Health Show. So I've got all these shows out all over, which I'm working on compiling and getting them all together into one place. But they are all so inspirational. People ask me all the time, what's your favorite show? And I just can't tell them, because every single show, when I get done, I'm like, that show was for me. It was for me.
Wonderful.
They all have incredible stories. Everybody has an incredible story to tell.
Well, that's wonderful. Do you have a website, Stephanie?
I don't right now. I'm working on getting another one.
Okie doke.
Website up. So
well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was fun little journey with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking me. I appreciate you.
All right. Well, you take care.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.